Hello and welcome to the Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast with me, clinical somatic educator and founder of Total Somatics, Heidi Hadley. The Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast has been designed to help you gain a deeper understanding to how your mind and body work. You will learn about your amazing mind and body and why over time you can feel pain, recurring injuries and poor posture. Within this podcast, I will teach you why this doesn't have to be your future or the norm for you. Would you like to learn how to reduce pain, move freely, and gain a new lease of life? Let's get started. Hello and welcome back. Now, I hope you've had a really nice time over the holidays. And as I record this, we've just started the year 2022. So there's lots of positivity and lots of intentional ways that we all want to move forward. So as I bring this from my home, because I'm still here on holiday, but I wanted to share this with you today, is that basically what I want us to start looking at from today is how our breathing, how our stress, how our posture and our movement, how they all come together. Now, if you're a member within the Total Somatics membership, you'll know even more so how I'm going to develop this today, because we know that within the membership, and again, lots of the sessions and the workshops that I teach you, is bringing the awareness back to our breath. It's also noticing how our posture and how our movements and our stress patterns, how they're all intertwined. And also, if you are a listener to my podcasts, you will know how often I will bring this out. And I'm going to continue to, because only today, before I started recording these podcasts, I just held the monthly Q&A session with the Total Somatics members. And it's one of the and this is why I've created this today, because it's one of the really big subjects that people are talking about with ongoing concerns with the pandemic, with long COVID, with other aspects. Breathing is what keeps showing up. And that's why within the membership, and something I'm going to share with you that you have access to also, this is something I really want to bring forward as we start a new year. And even if you're listening to this months and years later, it's still applicable, because from the moment that we are born to the very last moment we take our breath before we die, our breathing is something that stays with us our whole life. And so to really harness and understand our breath, and really, if you think about it, our breath helps us to start to understand what's really going on inside. And I mention this because sometimes people are not very aware of what their body sensations are telling them. And sometimes the lack of that awareness or information can make them feel quite fearful. And what I'd like to show you today and explain to you today is how that doesn't have to be the case. I want us to come from a place of curiosity. And I'm always mentioning this to the members, because if we come from an area of curiosity, just consider little children around you. Consider when you were little. When we're curious, we're looking for opportunities. We're looking for ways that we can actually learn and develop and grow. You know, if you think of a little one, what do their eyes do? Their eyes are looking everywhere. The more curious we are, the more we start to become aware of what's going on internally. What that does is it takes us out of a stress response, and we start to use our prefrontal cortex, which is the area for focus, awareness, concentration, decision-making, emotional intelligence, and regulation. So you see, when we start using the front part of our brain, we start to change our neural landscape, our brain landscape. And it really is great if we start noticing our breathing we're coming from curiosity, no judgment here, just curiosity. But you're going to notice that your breathing will change. It's going to change from fear, happiness, sadness, joy, and even excitement. So you see, your breathing is changing all the time. And after today's episode, just start checking in with yourself much more and noticing what your breathing is like at that moment in time, because it's going to change throughout the day. And the important thing is to become aware of it, but also to become comfortable with feeling different sensations. And as I said, I'm going to share something with you towards the end of this episode on, even if you're not a Total Somatics member, how you can actually do something with a digital product that I've just created that's very new to the Total Somatics online shop. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of that shortly. But you know, not only does our breath rate change with emotions, but our breath rate will change with our posture, and in particular, the postural stress reflexes. Now, if you are in the membership or you've joined me for the Total Somatics live experience in the past, you'll know that I talk about the brainstem. So our brainstem is incredible. There's things that go on in our brainstem which are subconscious or automatic. So that's where our breath rate, our heart rate, our hormonal secretions, everything that we don't have to micromanage, everything is just taken care of within our brainstem. It's what keeps us alive. You know, you don't have to sit here and tell your heart to keep beating. Your brainstem is telling your heart and keeping that rhythm going. However, in your brainstem, you also have these postural stress reflexes, and they've been designed to take care of you and look after you in service of survival. So when you are in a situation that can be quite challenging, can be quite stressful, in order to protect you, so self-preservation, these postural reflexes kick in. However, they've been designed that we go into them for that moment in time, but then we can come out of them. But as you're aware, if you've been regular to listening to my podcasts or you've watched any of my workshops, you'll know that most people are living in these postural stress reflexes most of the time. And so as a result of that, their breathing is impacted. And if their breathing and their posture are impacted, it means their movement is also restricted. And so that's why within Total Somatics, I teach you how we can start to regulate our breathing, how we can find neutral with our posture rather than being stuck in these stress patterns. And by extension, if we can start getting your movement, if we can start getting your breathing regulated and we can release these stress postures, then our movement will come back into play. We can start to explore the free range of movement. We can get that sliding and gliding of your fascia to return rather than it being stuck and jammed and tight. And so that's why within Total Somatics, I encourage you to become curious and notice your breathing with your pandiculations. Notice when you do your release within a pandiculation, what feels more comfortable for you for breathing? Is it to breathe out? Is it to breathe in? Or is it just to breathe naturally till you get to the end of that pandiculation? And then to really give permission for your nervous system just to slow down and stop and feel the power of pausing. That you may stay there and do 2 or 3 beautiful, deep somatic breaths just to fully ground your being so that you don't feel like you've just got to create these repetitions of pandiculations. You see, we're moving away from this repetition type of behavior to actually something that's going to be grounding and nurturing to your nervous system. And when your nervous system feels safe, then it allows you to fully release and let go. And that's going to show itself up with your posture and also with your movement. So we want to create a greater bandwidth to live in. And with most people at the moment, with the stress that they're under, if it's because of the current world status or for other aspects, their bandwidth or their tolerance can become incredibly narrow. And so when we consider our pandiculations with Total Somatics, when we consider our breathing, when we start using curiosity as our way of noticing and learning how we feel, what feels the most efficient and effective way to breathe into space, into like the sides of our rib cage or between our shoulder blades. When we play around with somatic movement, and what that starts to do is change the state of your nervous system. It starts to give you a bigger bandwidth to live in. And what we're seeing at the moment is people have got an incredibly narrow bandwidth. So from a funny look to a comment, which is pretty harmless in some cases, people are reacting like that really quickly. They're reacting. And so that's why the more that we can start taking care of our soma, which includes lots of things such as your emotional health, your mental health, your physical, your energetic, plus many more. If you think of how complex and how incredible we are under our skin, we've got all this sensory perception. And what we want to do is start to regulate our nervous system. So when we look through the world, when we perceive things, we're not reactive. Instead, we're responsive. So recently, I launched a new workshop, and this is outside of the membership. So if you're in the Total Somatics membership, you'll see that in your bonus section, you actually have this workshop. So you actually have that extra goodie, as it were. But it's also for non-members. So it's available outside of the membership within the Total Somatics online shop. And it's called Releasing Tight Hips and Back series. And the reason I've created this series is because I put a call out only recently, actually, to the general public to say, what would you like Total Somatics to work with? What do you want me to deal with? What do you want me to create a program for? And everybody came back with talking about hip flexors and lower back issues, tight hips. A lot of it for different reasons. It could be because they're working from home, they're less active, they're not walking from the train station to work, or, you know, for different reasons, they're just living more sedentary now if they're working from home, or just human habits change, don't they? And for that reason, people are finding that they're tighter in their hips. However, what's also happening is with the ongoing challenges and stresses that people are feeling, the center of your emotion and the center for those postural stress reflexes is within your hip flexors. It's right down, right in your center, that pelvic area. So when people are reacting, they don't realize this until you learn this through Total Somatics. When you are reacting to stress, the brainstem postural reflexes start in your center and then they ripple out. So when I hear people saying hip flexors and lower back, it's no surprise to me, because what I'm now hearing are the steady and stuck in these postural stress reflexes. And so that's why I've created this program. This program, you will notice when you join this 4-part module, is that I encourage you to start releasing your hip flexors. And we do it in a very gentle, safe way through pandiculation. When we do pandiculation, when we do it gently and we do it slowly, and I'm going to encourage you with different cues about that curiosity with your movement and your breath. When we bring all these factors in, we are reassuring your nervous system that you're in a safe environment. You're doing something that's safe and controlled with my assistance. And what that will do is reassure your nervous system that it is safe to release and let go. You see, we're throwing out our ego of how far can we make it stretch? How far can we move a limb? What we want to do is a software reset. Remember, your brain is the most incredible software in the universe. It's incredible. Your brain is soaking in and absorbing everything that translates into the rest of your being. Now, I've said it before, and I even say it in this workshop as well, is that how often do you update your mobile phone or your computer? You know, that's software, isn't it? Just consider for a moment that if we don't update our phone, for instance, the apps start running slowly. Well, it's the same for us. If we don't do pandiculations, if we don't do software resets regularly, our apps or our muscles and our fascia and our breathing and all the movement that comes with it, that starts to get sluggish and slow down. And that happens because obviously with the traumas and the stress and the anxiety that we're feeling, that's bombarding our nervous system. And so our nervous system needs to have a software reset. It needs time to just slow down, pause, recalibrate and reset. And so that's what the Total Somatics online shop is about. It's creating products for you that you can actually reset, recalibrate, and then start to become more somatically or internally aware to how life is basically treating you, but more importantly, how you can self-regulate. We can't do much about what's going on in the outside world. You know, at the end of the day, things are going to be up and down like a yo-yo, but what we can do is create regulation from within. And some days we're going to have wobbly days, other days will be fine. What we want to do is create this equilibrium and this support. And that's what I've created with the releasing tight hips and back series. So you might just think, oh, is it just about releasing tight hips and back? But when you look into that 4-part series, you will see that I talk about your postures. I talk about your mindset and your emotions and how your emotions shape you. And that's the thing, when you start to learn what's really going on deep inside, and your nervous system is basically patterning this tension and tightness all around your muscles, your fascia, everything. When you learn this within the 4-part series, you'll see how you can learn some incredibly powerful but very gentle pandiculations to release your tight hip flexors. But what you'll also notice is that we start from your center, but then we ripple out and we start to release other muscles. Because if you consider, if you've got tight hip flexors, it's going to change the way you stand, how you walk, where center or neutral truly is. You'll be walking slightly off center. When you learn Pandiculations through Total Somatics, I will teach you how to find center or neutral. So your mechanics, the way you move, the way that you stand will be greatly improved. So if you're listening to this before Friday, the 14th of January, I've actually got a New Year's sale. So anything that's in the Total Somatics online shop, if you type in the promo code, all in capital letters, no space bars, just all squashed together, put New Year Sale. So in capitals, put New Year Sale in the promo code, you will receive 15% off any of the products within the Total Somatics online shop. And if you're listening to this afterwards, then just keep a lookout. At time to time, there may be some promo offers, but even if that's not the case, the pricing that I create for you is such great value for what you're learning. And the key thing is you keep these products and you can go back to them. And the reality is, the more you do total somatic movement, mindset, and mindfulness, you actually deepen your practice. You notice so much more every time. And there's this 4-part series. So you'll see there's a video and there's like a whole movement session. And then we kind of progress and grow from there. So you have lots at your fingertips, and you can do this in the comfort and the privacy of your own home at a time that suits you. So enjoy the new program that's out, as well as all the other wonderful things that are in the online program. So that's called Releasing Tight Hips and Back Series. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.